It's Ted Padromo and Tuesdays with Ted, a special Thursday edition. And if I disappear, Tom, you're on your own, buddy, because
I I've I've been a winging it guy all my life, so
there we
bring it on.
go.
I'll wing it if you disappear, Ted.
Sure. This is my friend Tom Ruwitch. We met, gosh, close to 2 years ago now.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Our friend Adam introduced us, and we've been hanging out together online ever since, sharing war
A lot
stories. And
lot of hanging out. Yep.
so you're a storyteller these days.
I am a storyteller these days. I'm all about story power, how to harness the power of storytelling uh, for the purpose of captivating prospects and clients and inspiring them to act, because that's what stories do. They captivate, they inspire.
Yeah. And it's a big transition for you because you had your own business for what, 20 years?
Close to it, yeah. I back in 2001, I founded an email marketing company. I was a SaaS, software as a service CEO from 2001 until the end of 2019, when we merged the company with another email marketing company. And that company had been not just software. We had been an agency also, helping our clients with the strategic marketing, helping our clients with the content execution. And so a lot of the work that ultimately led to my business, Story Power Marketing, was being done at the previous business, MarketBolt, helping businesses figure out how to tell stories more effectively, how to captivate prospects. But I didn't hang the shingle and really put myself out there as a storytelling expert until 2020.
Mhm.
Started that business about 5 minutes before the pandemic started. And yeah,
Perfect timing.
yeah, and actually it was in some ways a blessing to that put me in a mode where I was working on the business uh, a lot more than in the business for those first several weeks and months, and that really has helped me build it.
You got to create some stories about the startup.
Got to create some stories, got to connect with some businesses that could benefit from storytelling, and away we went. Yeah.
Like all your marketing you did probably for 19 years with the company, you were telling stories because people remember stories.
Yeah, I mean, we know that as human beings instinctively, we connect with storytellers. We generally like to tell stories, and we like storytellers,
Yeah.
and so we know it instinctively. There's also just a ton of science to prove it, that we remember stories, that we trust and like storytellers more, that it activates chemicals in our brain to make us more comfortable with the people who are telling us the stories. So the science really supports us. Supports it. Our gut knows it. And then the real question is, how can you do it most effectively and most comfortably without writer's block, without feeling like, oh, I don't have the creative storytelling juice, I need a muse. That's the challenge that I think so many business people struggle with. And the thing that we really like to emphasize is that all of us have some creative juice inside of us. All of us have the ability to tell stories. And in the end, it's about being systematic. It's about learning the systems and the processes and the tools that you need to assemble powerful stories. Anyone can do it if they have those systems and tools.
We all have a million stories inside us. It's
We do.
just tapping into it. I just wrote an email about the Bruce Springsteen documentary I saw over the weekend.
Yeah, was it
All of his
good?
songs are stories about his childhood. A black train went by and he wrote a story.
Yeah, amen. Yeah. And you said all of us have stories inside of us, and indeed that's true. No question about it, and we can summon those stories for our marketing. But here's the beautiful thing about it. Even if you think you don't have stories inside of you, you're wrong. But even if you think that, um, you don't have to try to summon stories from some supposedly empty well. The real stories that you really want to draw from, the real well that you want to tap, are the stories about your prospects. The stories you want to tell to market your business are about the journeys that your prospects and clients are taking. Where are they now? What's bugging them? What's keeping them up at night? What are they pissed about? All that kind of stuff. And where do they want to go? What do they aspire to? What do they dream of? What do they crave? What do they covet? And if you can tap into that with good systematic market research, you have the building blocks that you need to tell a story about a before to after journey. And so those stories are out there if you go and discover them. And that's really what my work is all about, helping coaches, consultants, thought leaders, business leaders discover their prospect stories so that they can describe those journeys. Prospects find it relevant. Prospects lean in. Prospects say, tell me more, when you tell them a story that they see themselves in. So,
Right.
yeah.
And you tell them a story and they may tell that story to someone else.
That's right. Yeah. And it's a viral thing. We've all done it. Whether it's the television show we saw last night, or the documentary that we saw, or a song we heard, or the thing that happened with our drunk uncle at Thanksgiving, we tell the story, and then we repeat the story, and stories can be very, very viral. And so that all adds up to making human connections with prospects. It's about quality versus quantity. And I know, Ted, in your work on LinkedIn and really everything you do, that's what you are all about. And that's why you and I are friends. We really see eye to eye on this stuff.
Yeah. And we had a friend that introduced us, a mutual friend, and he told stories about us to each other, probably. Gotta meet this guy, Tom. You wouldn't believe.
Yeah, that's true. And you named him. His name is Adam Kreitman, and he now does some stuff behind the scenes. He's not really a public figure as a coach or a consultant anymore, although he's still very involved in the internet, search marketing expert.
Right.
And he's been a big inspiration for me. He used to write daily emails that were just awesome. And he and I used to challenge one another in our own email marketing to come up with stories. He'd shoot me an email and he'd say, email this, and it would be some wild thing that he found on Reddit that would be inspiration for stories. In fact, I'm not here to make these shameless pitches, but but I'll make a shameless pitch. I have a podcast. It's called the Story Power Marketing Show, storypowermarketing.show. And you were one of my guests. We had a great conversation about the difference between personal and human marketing versus robotic, and the bots, and quantity versus quality. I had a great conversation with Adam where all we did in the episode was trade stories about the stories that we inspired each other to write. And it's a really good lesson in how to go find stories. We've been talking about it, that a lot of people think, I don't know what to write. I don't know where to go. That's a good primer for, you're surrounded by stories. You do the daily emails now, or daily-ish, right? And and because you are exercising that muscle, you've gotten into that power of habit. You have established a power of noticing. So the everyday stuff that you're doing, watching a thing about Springsteen, I don't know if that turned into an email, but if you wanted to turn it into an email, it would be a snap for you. You're noticing the story in the stories, and that's a really powerful place to be.
And that's how I got it. Reading Adam's emails inspired me. Like, I can write better emails than I've been writing. And then I started watching yours, and you guys were going back and forth. Like, I can do that too. And it's a muscle. If you get into the habit, it takes 10 or 15 minutes to write an email now for me.
That's right.
It's all like stream of consciousness a lot of times. I just kind of think of something while I'm walking the dog or riding my Peloton.
the stuff that happens to you every day. You know, ever since the pandemic hit, I do a fair amount of the home grocery delivery. And I did one a couple days ago, and I use a service called Shipt, SHIPT.
Yeah.
And the app that their shoppers use went down right in the middle of my order, and the order never showed up. The shopper finally texted me that this happened, and it just had this hellish customer service experience, and I wrote about it. It's a great story. It's instructive. You know, what I drew from it is that no one at Shipt put themselves in the customer's shoes, because if they stopped for a moment and thought, I wonder what the customers are feeling right now, because there are thousands of them out there who are not getting their groceries and are stuck on hold as they
Right.
try to get to the chat or to the phone. I wonder what they're thinking and wondering. Well, one of the things I was thinking and wondering is, what the heck's going on? When is this going to be resolved? And so forth. I go to their Twitter feed, I go to their Facebook feed, I go to their website. Nothing. Just their Facebook feed had a promotion about how to decorate holiday cookies. Not yeah, not helpful, right? And so when I finally, 24 hours after this all went down, and they still had my order pending, I couldn't cancel it because it was still in the delivery window. After I finally got somebody on the phone, I said, "Hey, thanks." She was able to deal with it. She actually re-upped the orders, and I got it again. I got the food finally. But I said, do me a favor and just put a note in this ticket, you know, up the chain, that when you have something like this happen, use your social media, use your emails, you know, just tell us. If the answer is we don't know when it's going to be fixed, it may be a while,
Right.
but your credit card won't be charged until and unless you get your groceries. That's enough. I'm okay with that. It's the
Yeah.
uncertainty. And so I told that story and turned it into a lesson about empathy, because empathy is one of the stories, one of the ideas, one of the principles that I want to bring to my audience. It's all about putting yourself in your prospect's shoes and your customer's shoes, and then telling stories that come from their perspective. And because I know the ideas and the principles that I want to bring to my audience, when something happens to me like this, the ship
Mhm.
thing, I'm able to say, oh, that's a story with a lesson that ties to what I want to talk about. And it's so easy to find the stories when you're systematic about that and when you're exercising that muscle.
Yeah, so there is a formula. You can repeat this,
Oh, yeah.
do the same thing. I'm like, oh, that'd be interesting. That'd be a good story to share with my list.
If there was not a formula, if it was not systematic, if it was not repeatable, it would be misery.
Right.
Right? Well, I don't want to say that. I like to write. I like to, I don't mind sitting there, trying to figure it out and trying to draw from it. But I know from experience, talking to other business people, that feeling of sitting down in front of a computer screen or a blank sheet of paper once upon a time, now what? It's painful. And there are cures for this, for
Yeah.
writer's block. We both know Eugene Schwartz was the most prolific and successful copywriter of his day in the late 20th century, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and so forth.
Yeah.
And this guy, who knows how many millions of dollars he was responsible for selling with the thousands of ads that he wrote. He claims he never once suffered from writer's block. And what he says to explain that is, we don't write copy, we assemble it. And that's what he's talking about, that he has done the market research. He's dove deep. He dove. Yeah, that's the right word. He
Yeah.
has I thought for just a second that the word was divin, but no, that's not it. He dives deep. He has discovered what makes the market tick, the prospects tick, and when it comes time to write those ads and the sales letters, he's able to assemble those building blocks that he's already gathered. It's not just an act of conjuring, conjuring stories with some sort of creative magic. We're not creative unicorns. We're human beings, and we work well by drawing on systems that are repeatable and scalable. And when we do that, anybody can nail this storytelling thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a program from Nightingale Conant. Gosh, it's called the Einstein Factor. I don't know if you ever heard of that. But he teaches you to go out and you just be aware of things. Like as you're walking the dog, notice 30 things a day, he says.
Yep.
And I put him in otter.ai as I'm walking the dog. So I have like endless ideas for blog posts or articles.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I talk about this idea of the habit of noticing. It is, and this is exactly what we're talking about. What you're describing is establishing a system, a habit of just paying attention, of noticing, of being curious. Curiosity is a huge, huge part of this. And if you commit and establish that habit and exercise that muscle, all of a sudden you connect dots and things light up in your brain that you otherwise would just not notice. And by the way, it just makes your life so much more fulfilling to be able, as you walk the dog, to notice things and be interested in them and be excited about them. And then, better yet, if you can draw from them to grow your business, well, nothing
it's
better
addicting in a way for me. It's like I never thought about writing. I used to write really boring emails just to write an email.
Yeah.
Now that I'm noticing things and sharing stories, I'm like, I can't wait to send my next email. And when people reply, it's even better.
Yeah. And I was going to bring that up, but you nailed it. Since you began storytelling in your email, you're the one supposed to be interviewing me, but people reply. I mean, let's talk about that for a minute. What's been your experience?
Well, one thing is if you end the email and ask a question, people respond and answer it. It's like, wow, what a concept.
Yeah. I used to write the traditional email newsletter. Here is a link to a case study. Here is a tip on this topic. Here's another tip on this topic. Here's the latest feature that we've added in the sale that we're offering. And, I could probably count on one hand how many people replied directly with, "Oh, thanks, Tom. Got your email. Wanted to give you some feedback on this thing." I mean, minimal replies over 18 years of doing this. And when I began to really bring storytelling into my email every day, I'm not doing daily emails these days, but 3 to 5 emails a week, I always get responses. And every email I send, somebody responds. And that's that human connection we were talking about. It's so critical.
When you write about features and technical stuff, the brain kind of shuts down. But if you talk about stories, it engages a different part of the brain and people are excited to read it.
Yeah.
Or hear it, however you deliver your stories.
Yeah, and that's a great point also. The written word is what we've sort of been talking about, but it can be a short video as well. And it doesn't have to be some fancy schmancy, overly produced video. It can just be a quick thing that you shoot from your iPhone or whatever. So, what we're talking about is just sort of dropping the mask and being human. I love how in your stuff you talk about, you talk about your Peloton, you talk about what's going on in your life, as do I. By the way, I inspired by you, I looked at the Peloton and I decided not to buy it, but that's a story for another.
I have a few friends that actually bought them, and it's like people that wouldn't actually invest in that kind of stuff. You inspired me so much. I just bought one because it's on sale.
Yeah, there it is.
Where's my commission?
I know you're not in it for that.
No. No, it's been very just following you and seeing how you're doing, I'm kind of modeling what you're doing and teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And that writer's block thing, I don't really have much of it anymore. But some days my emails aren't as good as others. And I've read that Ben Settle actually talked about that. If you send 5 emails a week, they're not all going to be home runs. You're going to have some good ones. You're going to have some bad ones.
Yeah. And, and Ben, of course, is a master of this. He's not a guy who invented the daily email in this format. He'll often cite Matt Fury, F-U-R-E-Y, who's in the fitness space, is the guy who really inspired him. But Ben is a guy who took it to another level.
Yeah.
And I've learned a ton from Ben. One thing I've learned from Ben is, hey, it's okay to repurpose the same stories. And I've read emails where Ben has told a story I've heard him tell 6 times, and it often will have a slightly different spin. And it's never written in quite the same way, and it's always informational and entertaining. And oh, by the way, the first time you sent that email, maybe your open rate was 20%. You're in great shape if it was 30%. And so 70% of the people on your list didn't see it the first time. So it's not as if you're going to be flooded by people who are saying, why did you send me the story? And we're not talking about week after week after week repeating stories. We're talking about, in my case, I've been on his list for a few years now. And yeah, I've heard that one before. And he's reinforcing lessons and ideas, often telling the same story to deliver a different idea. So that's one thing. When you talk about sometimes you do sit down and it's not coming to you as easily, but you can draw from your folder of previously sent emails, or to your point, if you're systematic about recording things, about keeping notes, you can always go into your stuff and find something that prompts an email. You may not have the energy to really nail it that day, but you can draw something out. And so there's always a story to tell.
Well, that was the point too, of capturing your ideas immediately. Win Wenger was the author of this Einstein program.
Yeah.
Basically, he said, you're walking a dog or something, you're running, you come up with an idea. By the time you get home to write it down, you forget.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to show you.
Immediately, you have 30 or 40 great ideas a day, and you don't realize it.
So Apple Watch, right here in the upper left-hand corner, is an action button, and that goes straight to my voice recorder to text module inside an app called Bear. Bear, like the animal, B-E-A-R. The Bear app is a note-taking app for Apple. I also have used this with Zoho. I run parts of my business on the Zoho platform. And so I've done it with Zoho Notes as well. I'm walking the dog. I'm listening to a podcast. I'm watching something on TV. Idea hits. I press the button. Da 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 da. It records. It hits my notes, and then on a periodic basis, I'll just go into those notes and then organize them into the folders and the places that I need to retrieve them later. Sometimes, in fact, just today, I was redesigning the way that I organize my various notes so that it will be easier in just the scenario you described. On those days where I wake up, something hasn't hit me, I don't have something in the can. I go to my notes, and I spent half an hour today kind of reorganizing the way I have it laid out. Systems, there it is. Systems and process are so fundamental as part of this. And if you apply systems and process, it's just so much easier.
Yeah. The morning routine is it for me. Perry Marshall taught me, and Hal Elrod is like the power hour.
Yeah. Miracle Morning, or different, there are all sorts of different models for that.
Yeah.
And, I don't have one to sell you or to tell you got to do it that way. just commit to some routine to organize your stuff, to clear the junk out of your brain, to get your blood flowing, whatever it may be. And that makes this process really easy as well.
Don't touch electronics till you've been up for at least 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, I like that. I can't say that I do it 2 or 3 hours, but I definitely have a series of things that I do before I look at my phone, before I check on my email.
Yeah.
There was one other thing I wanted to note as we sit here and talk about process and systems. There is still great value in just sort of cutting yourself loose and seeing what creative juices flow. I talk about this idea of noodling and doodling and jotting, and that's what journaling is about. Sitting down with your journal and just writing whatever comes to mind. Musicians, I just recently watched that Beatles documentary, the Get Back documentary, and the thing that really struck me about that is that they sat in the studio, and a lot of the time they were just sort of noodling on their guitars, and often drawing from old stuff, noodling a Chuck Berry riff, or just sort of strumming chords of a Dylan song. And that you're letting the brain, when you noodle and doodle and jot, you're letting the brain find something that's hidden from your consciousness. And the creative well, whether you believe it or not, is in there. And so that combination of building time into your life to just create for creation's sake, with systems to gather information, put building blocks together, and so forth, those are really important. Those two things combined are really, really important for putting stories together and being able to do the kind of thing that we're talking about, Ted.
Yeah, one of my clients actually does that. They do teach people how to engage with art, and it makes them much more effective in everything. And they have 10 years of research behind it.
Yeah. Have you read stuff by Austin Kleon, Kleon? He wrote a book called what is it? Steal Like an Artist or something like that. And it's along those same lines. He is an artist, but also a successful businessman. And he's all about that, how to harness the creativity inside us for productive purposes. And Austin Kleon, Kleon, check him out. He's
Drawing from the Right Side of the Brain's another good one.
Yeah. Yep. I've heard.
Like, I can't draw or a thing, but I was like drawing great pictures using that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You draw things upside down with your opposite hand, and like, they're really nice.
I think I need to check that out, because
totally engages different parts of your brain, which makes you more creative and expressive.
My father-in-law, I'm a musical person. I play the piano. I write songs. So I've got that creative thing in me. But when it comes to art and drawing and all that stuff, I've never been able to harness that. And my father-in-law, who's no longer with us, was a very, very accomplished portrait painter in the like John Singer Sargent quality kind of stuff. Those beautiful, very photorealistic oil paintings of people who paid him a lot of money to do that. And I just I barely can kick out a stick figure. So it's an interesting thing, what we're able to do. But to your point, with some guidance and with some practice, even if you don't believe you're capable of the creative thing, you do have something in you that you don't that you've never summoned before, and with help you can summon it.
Yeah. And with the right questions asked to get people thinking on those terms.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Well, this has been great, Tom.
I've had a blast.
Yeah, we could go forever.
This went quickly. How long have we been talking? 2 or 3 hours? How long have we been at this?
Yeah. So how can people get a hold of you and learn more about the storytelling?
They could get a hold of me by email directly, tom@storypowermarketing, all one word, storypowermarketing.com. The website, storypowermarketing.com. I have a really cool 12-minute micro training that you can get on the website. If you go to resources, actually, there are a whole bunch of great resources on the site, but the micro training is the 3 keys to captivate prospects and inspire them to buy using storytelling. And it's a little 12-minute video, get instant access. That's a great way to really dive into this stuff. Here I am on LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, all those places. But if you email me, I'll email back.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been great. I think we could go for hours.
Yeah, we could. Thanks, Ted. I'll see everybody. You soon. I know.
We'll see ya.